On a Monday afternoon in March 1982, a mother, a father, and an 8-year-old girl climbed into their car and drove away from home. They never told anyone where they were going. 1 month later, their car was found crushed at the bottom of a mountain, buried in snow, mangled beyond recognition. Like they weren't inside. Did this family die in an accident, or did they walk away from their lives together? The morning something broke. To understand what happened on that mountain road, we need to go back to the morning of March the 16th, 1982, to a house in the San Gabriel Valley. Unremarkable from the outside, a working-class neighborhood, modest lawn, neighbors who wave but don't pry. Inside that house lived 4 people. The family, Carmen, the mother, worked full-time, held the household together with the quiet ferocity of a woman who had learned not to ask for help. Robert, the father, unemployed, by all accounts gentle, but adrift. A man whose sense of purpose had been quietly eroding for months. Lily, their daughter, 8 years old, quiet, watchful, the kind of child who notices everything and says nothing. Elena, Carmen's mother, the grandmother, living in the same house, sleeping in the back bedroom, cooking tamales on Sundays. The morning Elena would later tell investigators that she remembered breakfast that morning. She remembered the light. She remembered Lily's cereal bowl. But most of all, she remembered Carmen crying. She was crying so hard her mother could barely speak to her, and yet no one asked why. No argument had been reported. No raised voices the night before. No packing of bags. No goodbye to Elena, who was standing right there. Carmen simply rose from the table. Robert followed. Lily, carrying nothing, not a backpack, not a stuffed animal, walked out behind them. By noon, the house was empty. The drive into nowhere. The car was a 1979 Ford Granada, brown, the kind of car that disappears into traffic. Reliable enough. Nothing special. What was special, or rather what was deeply strange, was where it was going. 80 miles north of their home, up into the San Gabriel Mountains, into a region that had no connection to their lives. No family there. No friends, no work, no reason. The discovery: a snowplow operator found the car in April. It had rolled, or been pushed, down a steep embankment and come to rest in a gully below the road. The front end was compressed. The windshield was gone. Snow had packed around it like concrete. Beat. Then the detail that changes everything. The car was smashed, but clean. No blood, not a trace. No bodies, not a fragment. No footprints. The snow around the car was undisturbed. Pause. And then quietly, it looked less like an accident and more like a message. The car that shouldn't be there here is where the case stops being strange and starts being impossible. The road through the pass had been closed due to weather conditions on Tuesday, March 17th, the day after the family disappeared, which means the car had to be placed there on the 16th, the same day Carmen cried at breakfast, the same day no one said goodbye. One of the theories, theory 1, accidental crash. The family drove into the mountains, lost control on an icy road, and the car went over the edge. But this doesn't explain the absence of blood, the undisturbed snow, or the bodies. Theory 2, snowplow collision. The car was struck by a plow clearing the road, possibly in low visibility conditions, and knocked into the gully. The operator, unaware, continued working. Plausible, but it still doesn't explain where the family went. To theory 3, deliberate misdirection. The car was driven to the pass, pushed over the edge intentionally, either by the family or by someone else, and left to be found. A decoy, a false ending, a way to make three people disappear without anyone looking for them in the right place. If the car was meant to be found, what wasn't? The mountains kept the car. The family disappeared. Rumors, religion, and rituals. In the weeks before the disappearance, neighbors and family members noticed changes in the household, not alarming ones at first, but in retrospect, unsettling. Carmen had become, by some accounts, deeply religious. Not in the way she had always been, Sunday Mass, a rosary by the door. This was different, more fervent, more private, the details that didn't fit. Several large candle purchases were noted at a local shop after the disappearance, but linked to a name associated with the household. A purchase of live chickens from a market outside their neighborhood, for reasons that were never explained to anyone who asked. References by Elena to meetings. Carmen attended alone, at night without Robert or Lily. The whispers begin. Investigators and later journalists began to ask whether the family had come into contact with a religious group or something that called itself one. Sacrifices, candles, secret meetings. These are the words that began appearing in notes and in tips, in calls to the hotline that was briefly established in April of 1982. But here is the part that haunts investigators most. Every lead, every single one, that suggested Carmen might still be alive showed her alone. Not with Robert, not with Lily, just Carmen. Some disappearances aren't escapes, they're separations. Sightings without a family. Over the months following the disappearance, a pattern emerged, fragmented, unverified, but impossible to ignore. The Malninon, May 1982. A woman matching Carmen's description was reported at a shopping center 40 miles from their home. She was alone. She made eye contact with the witness, then walked quickly toward an exit. By the time security arrived, she was gone. The hospital, August 1982. A nurse at a county hospital reported a woman she believed to be Carmen checking in under a different name. Records from that visit were later lost or never properly filed. No follow-up was made at the time. Was the flower shop, November 1982. A florist claimed Carmen had purchased marigolds, Dia de los Muertos flowers, and from her shop. She said the woman seemed calm, purposeful, like someone who had made peace with something, the florist said. Always the mother, never the father, never the child. The darkest possibilities, if these sightings were real, and investigators were never able to confirm or disprove any of them, then Carmen survived whatever happened on that mountain. Ina, which means one of several things. She left voluntarily and without her daughter. She was coerced, separated from her family and kept from coming forward. She was in danger, from debt, from someone, from a situation that made disappearing safer than staying. Or she witnessed something, and survival required silence. If she survived, what did it cost her? What the mountains kept. There are cases that end with answers, with arrests, with courtroom footage and victim impact statements and the cold comfort of knowing. This is not one of those cases. No remains were ever found, no arrests were ever made, and no explanation ever fit every piece. Not the absence of blood in a mangled car. Not the grandmother who heard crying but didn't ask why. Not the sightings of a woman alone. Not the candles. Not the chickens. not the road that closed the very next day. None of it fits neatly. None of it resolves. To somewhere between a breakfast table and a mountain road, a family ceased to exist, and no one knows if they died together or were torn apart. If you've been sitting with this one, I understand. Some cases don't let you go. If you have any information about the disappearance of a family matching this description in the San Gabriel Valley area in March of 1982, or if you believe you may have seen Carmen, Robert, or Lily in the years that followed, please reach out. Act to local authorities, to the tip line linked in our show notes, or to us directly. Someone knows something. Someone always does. If this episode moved you, please subscribe wherever you listen and leave a review. It takes 30 seconds, and it is the single most powerful way to help this show find the people who need to hear these stories. Our next episode. Next week, we go back even further to a case that predates 9/11 as we know it, and a family who called for help and reached no one. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Until next time, stay curious, stay careful, and never stop asking questions.